Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and welcome to WNTV and welcome to Kashmir Seeks Attention. Today, we will be talking about the conflicts in Israel, as they put it, and Palestine. Both countries being known as states, not being known or recognized in their own right. And we will be very going into quite a lot of detail about this. We also have a guest speaker live from Jerusalem, and we will be going on to them and also be discussing what has been happening for the last 11 days with regards to the onslaught of Israel and Palestine. I'd like to move on to a very short clip that we are going to show you, just so all our viewers and you guys that are watching can see exactly what we're talking about. So we'll move on to the short clip that we have ready for you to show and demonstrate the conflict in Palestine as we've all seen.
1, 2, 3, 4, occupation zone 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, occupation zone 1. Are you guys ready for your first speaker of the day? What is this? You want the energy? Are you guys ready for your speaker of the day? Are you ready? Are you sure? All right, let's bring on the first speaker, inshallah, bi'idhnillah.
ठंडा रहा
Yes, we've been watching these demonstrations right across the UK. A lot of demonstrations that were happening last weekend. There were 100,000 people that marched in London. There were banners. Everybody was coming out to support the Palestinian people, and the people did really speak. On the political front, what our leaders, what our prime ministers, what our opposition had to say was actually a very different story. We'll talk about more about this in detail, but I'd like to move on to our first guest, Julia Ward, who's a former MEP for the Labour Party. Welcome to the programme, Julie.
Much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be here to engage in these important conversations.
I'm sure you're not a newcomer to all of this type of conflict, because you also, I understand, have been to Arizona, where you have seen state oppression for yourself. So can you just give us a little bit of background as to the conflict in Israel and Palestine, and why it is being referred in particular as a conflict and not as what we see the rest of the world as complete butchering of the Palestinian people by a mighty state?
Well, this is not a new issue, and every few years we seem to have a kind of flashpoints of violence. When I was first elected in 2014, that summer saw a horrendous bombardment and multiple deaths of civilians, including many, many children. I can actually remember going to Rochdale, and where local children from the town of Rochdale, each one of them held a piece of paper with the name of a murdered Palestinian child. So what is happening now is not new. It has been happening for some years. And the recent escalation of the conflict, of the violence, is, I think, driven very politically. I think we mustn't forget that this issue is not about people to people relations. It is a political issue. Last night I was participating in a really interesting event with Breaking the Silence, and I would urge all of you who don't know about Breaking the Silence to find out about this organisation, to follow them, to support them, and to learn from them. So Breaking the Silence is a very powerful voice of truth. It comprises of former Israeli Defense Force soldiers who want to tell the truth about the way they were commanded to act when they were in active military service. And listening to them talk about their experiences, they're very clear that, that the conscripts, young Israeli conscripts, are never educated into the history of what's happened in the Middle East. They're brought up with one kind of line. They're not really taught about Palestinian cultural traditions or about their neighbors. And so there's kind of a very narrow mindset.
Julie, I'd like to stop you there and ask you this question, and that is a two-state solution the way forward?
Well, I've always believed that two states is what should happen. But each year that goes past means that it's more and more difficult. And with a kind of hardening of political ideology amongst in the current government led by Netanyahu, I think that it becomes more and more difficult. And Trump made it more difficult. We have to accept that. What Trump did was to make things more and more difficult, more and more polarized. I want to hang on to the idea of a two-state solution because it is what everybody, there was an agreement about that. There was an agreement that this should happen. But when you have illegal settlements acquiring land, when the corridors of communication are blocked between families because people cannot travel from the West Bank to Gaza, for example, and people cannot now even travel from Jerusalem to the various sort of cities around, when you have the situation that you have in Hebron, with this kind of with the main street of the city just taken over and people's houses have been taken from them and they cannot be there anymore, and you have a huge military presence in this city. I think that it just makes the two-state solution more and more problematic. What I'm really concerned to do, though, is to be absolutely clear that when we have a disagreement about what two countries or states may be doing, that this disagreement isn't with the people, okay? This is really important for me. This disagreement is a disagreement between political actors, and it's the political actors who have to move closer together, to remember promises that were made and agreements that were signed, and
But Julie,
stand up and honor those.
Julie, If I can just ask, we're seeing this being played out right inside the Labour Party. We have Sir Keir Starmer, who we believe has taken a bit of a softly approach. And then on the other hand, we have Jeremy Corbyn, who has been standing out on the streets and shouting out for the rights of Palestinians. Why is there such a big gap?
Again, it's politics, isn't it? And I think that more politicians have to be brave and courageous and tell the truth. And that's why it's important that we listen to Jewish people themselves, like Michael Rosen, for example, who's a wonderful children's writer and poet in this country. We have to listen to people who themselves have Jewish heritage and, have themselves maybe even an Israeli passport. And that's why I talk about breaking the silence, because breaking the silence are Jewish. They're Israeli people, and they are telling the truth about what has been happening. Now, you talk about, Keir Starmer, but let's also look at some of the other people on the front bench. Afzal Khan spoke in Manchester last week. I think he's deputy shadow leader. And there you have a very high-profile person. You also have Baroness Wolsey speaking in the House of Lords. So there are some very courageous people who aren't afraid to speak up about basically what is a human rights issue. So I would just urge people to be very careful. And I am concerned about the rise in anti-Semitism as well as about Islamophobia, and I'm concerned about all situations where people aren't standing up for
Julie Ward,
minorities.
Julie, I'm going to bring Irfan into this in a minute, but just my last.
Just to tell you, I will have to leave because I'm supposed to be at an event with refugees. So, but
just Julie, I just want to ask, the one only last question. Do you think that the issue of Kashmir and Palestine is the same?
I think there are some similarities, but but there are also many, many differences too. So I can't say. And again, I was speaking at an event for Kashmir only 1 hour ago. And my message is,
Can't hear. Yes.
We don't have a quarrel with the people. Our quarrel and our disagreement and all our attention must be placed on the government, the political actors who often are playing games for their own careers, for their own ends.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julie, for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was Julie speaking on as a former MEP for the Labour Party. We did have a few more questions lined up for her, but unfortunately she was short on time, but I'm sure we will catch up with her at some point. I'd like to move on to our next guest, who's Shari Mahmoud. She's a radio presenter, works for Muslim Connect, and is very, very vocal in terms of speaking up for justice around the world. So moving on to Shireen, welcome to the programme.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Shireen, what is your take on what is going on in Israel at the moment?
I mean, okay, so a lot of us are aware of what's going on in the news, and we've had social media, which this time has really been the forefront of actual real live footage from there. I have just been sent something. Yes, the ceasefire was announced yesterday, but Masjid al-Aqsa has been attacked right now with stun grenades, and I can tell you a friend of mine sent me the video footage, so it's all very real. Tear gas, stun grenades, and rubber bullets have been used against worshippers.
Shirin, I just want to share that, the video clip, short video clip, and then we go to you.
راح يصير طخ هلا هاي الطخ هلا راح يطخوا راح تخرج هي حاجه شوف
انزل
وين مكان هان احسن شيء هان أأمن إشي هأمن إشي هان هأمن إشي هان
خلاص خلينا ننزل تعال
اترك تسحبني
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so this has just been sent by Dr. Abir, actually, who is joining us as a guest, which obviously we can understand that it might not be possible now to hear from her. I mean, what can I say? It's been an overwhelming situation. Yes, you know, this has been happening for years now. This isn't anything new. This is a lot worse. I've heard from the Palestinians themselves that this is worse than the 2014 attacks on Gaza. And of course, this time it's been much bigger because they've attacked Masjid al-Aqsa. They've attacked a place of worship. They've attacked worshippers. All sorts have been, you know, shared. It was definitely something that the occupying forces started rather than the Muslims who, as we know, are quite often praying and focusing on fasting during the month of Ramadan. But again, it's the holy day of Jummah today, and tens of thousands of people have gone to Masjid al-Aqsa to obviously celebrate the ceasefire last night. And of course, it's Jummah. So in a packed out Masjid al-Aqsa, they have been attacked again by Israeli security forces.
Shireen, can I just ask you, the demonstrations that have taken place, the amount of support that has been forthcoming for the Palestinians from the UK, do you think this has had a bearing on the ceasefire?
I mean, you would hope so, because what's happened is this could have gone on for longer. Yes, fair enough. And the Palestinians themselves, the real stories that are coming out, the people that we are now seeing, the other side of, you know, the footage, we are being told on social media, and that's why there's been such a big sort of demonstrations, protests. There's another one going on this Saturday in London at 1 p.m. Victoria Embankment that a lot of people will be going on. We've had support from Jeremy Corbyn. We've had, you know, some support from local MPs as well. The fact that, you know, there are bigger protests this time, yes, there is a little bit more of a hope that this will have an impact. It has an impact on our brothers and sisters, our Palestinian brothers and sisters, and inshallah it will have a greater impact. What we need to remember is we cannot stop, we cannot lose the energy for this. And I think this is, you know, what's just happened right now on Jummah in Masjid al-Aqsa Mosque is enough for us to continue to raise a voice, to continue to write to our MPs, to continue to do what we can here in the UK. And this has happened all over the world. People have been protesting, and this is different. Even the Palestinians are feeling that something is different this time. And I do believe that this is all related to Masjid al-Aqsa. And if we're going to unite over something, it's the fact that our faith places are being attacked. And I do want to mention here, any rise in anti-anything, anti-Islam, you know, whether it's often we get mixed up with Zionism and Judaism. No one is being anything against the Jewish faith at all. This is nothing to do with that. No one is being anti-Semitic by saying free Palestine. No one is, you know, being anti-Semitic by demanding that the Palestinians are given their right. And I think this is something we cannot let go. I've seen a lot more celebrities, a lot more mainstream people speak up on this, and we need to continue with that. That it is not anti-Semitic for us to support the Palestinian cause.
Shireen, that's a really valid and really good point that you raised, and I'm really happy that you've raised this. A lot of people are confused between what is seen as anti-Semitic and what is seen as anti-Zionism. So are you able to just clarify this for our viewers who are watching this, who are still unsure what the difference between the two are?
I mean, it's like, okay, so for example, if we were calling out white supremacy, right? Are we anti-Christian? No, no one's ever made that too. So why is it that if we are criticizing, which is completely clear for everyone to see, that has not been brainwashed, You know, which is the side with the military power, which is the side that has been attacking buildings, that has killed 253 people. I think the count is up now. 60 children have been killed. You know, a Christian monastery has been attacked and obliterated. Priests have been beaten by the Israeli security forces in the old city of Jerusalem. So this is not about being anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish or anti-anything. In fact, I think people need to also remember that Palestinians are Palestinian Jewish, Palestinian Christian, and Palestinian Muslims. This is a city, this is a place where all three Abrahamic faiths consider very holy and very blessed. And I don't even understand. Anyone who can do a bit of research can find out how on earth Israel came about and what happened from start to finish. So I urge everyone to go look into it and do their own research, and with open mind and open eyes.
I'd like to ask you, if you could give a message to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, what would that be?
As far as I know, he's not actually said anything at this point of time. What can we expect from a man who calls ladies who choose to wear burqa, you know, bank robbers, or likens them to something? And look at what the situation has arisen, that we're all now covering up from face masks, and you know, because of the COVID pandemic. So what can we expect from a prime minister who has in the past been known to be racist, anti, you know, just anti-human rights, or even freedom to express yourself, or you know, it's Islamophobic? What can we expect from him? We expect better, yes, we can, but if I'm honest, it's all about Jeremy Corbyn for me.
So how do you see things going forward from here?
Well, I urge everyone, anyone and everyone, whatever you can do within your own capacities, your skill sets, your contacts, your networks, to continue to raise a voice for Palestinians to be given their rights. This is, you know, whether we like it or not, let's use the right terms. It's a genocide, it's ethnic cleansing, it's not anything less than that. You know, you only have to imagine, you only have to put yourself in those people's shoes and understand what the situation is. It's crazy being attacked at a masjid, at a place of worship where you're going to pray, you know, on the day of Jummah, which, you know, is a big thing in the Muslim faith. So how is this okay? Right? They were celebrating, you know, the Israelis on the other side were wailing about, you know, the ceasefire being announced. They were unhappy. They were not okay about it. And then the Palestinians were going to their mosque to pray, and they went and they did, you know, two nafils for shukr as well. And this is the Palestinian side, and look at what's going on the other side. So I urge everyone just to open your eyes, open your minds, and see what's been happening over the years. And let's now be honest and open about it, and let's be vocal about it. This isn't something that we can forget and just, you know, go on about. Now that we've got this, just like the Black Lives Matter movement turned into something and it had an impact on, you know, the situation, then let's continue to have a voice now.
Okay, can we move on to Irfan Sab? I think he would like to ask Shireen a few
Yes,
questions.
Shiri, what did you see there when you went with different groups?
So I mean, again, for the most part of it, Jerusalem is a very safe city. When the security forces are at bay and they're not doing anything like this is something that even I haven't seen up close. I have seen them walk around. I have seen them strut their stuff, you know, and I've seen them point guns at children who are walking to school. You know, and the children don't even flinch because they're so used to that type of behavior. But from what I've seen, you know, this time it's absolutely crazy. For the most part of it, Jerusalem, I've traveled many times there. It's very safe. I've taken groups out to Masjid al-Aqsa because it is the third holiest site. It's the third masjid that we are supposed to visit as Muslims. We cannot forget that it's the first Qibla. We cannot forget that that is the only place on earth that all of the previous prophets have prayed behind Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We cannot forget that that is the station of Isra and the night of the journey, Isra wal Miraj. We cannot forget that. That land is holy for us. The Dome of Rock is that, it's all of it. Dome of Rock, Old Aqsa, Masjid Marwani, Masjid Barak, all of that. It's very, very special to us, and we have to visit even more so now. People ask me, why do you speak up so much about Masjid al-Aqsa? Why would you travel to Masjid al-Aqsa? Why not Makkah and Medina? Everybody goes there. Everybody goes to Makkah and Medina. They go on multiple umrahs. But sometimes, if you think about it in this way, that if you have 3 children and the third child is ill or is being bullied or is being hurt constantly, which one would you protect more? Which one would you have more love for at that time? Which one would you look after more? Which one would you make more effort for? So right now, I think more than anything, we have to think about Masjid al-Aqsa, and we have to question ourselves, why don't we know enough about Masjid al-Aqsa? Why has it not been important to our imams, our teachers, our sheikhs to speak up about Masjid al-Aqsa? Why do we not know about Masjid al-Aqsa? Even the Christians teach their children in Sunday school, at church, what love they should have for the holiest church that they have, which is the Church of Holy Sepulchre, where the Armenian priest was attacked just yesterday. So this is something that, again, I'm going to say it's not a Muslim issue. It is an attack on faith, places of worship, people, Muslims, Christians alike. We need to work together so that we can work for the rights of the Palestinians.
Shirin, what is the greatest need there right now?
Anytime anyone's visited, they will always say, we don't want your money. They are hardworking, resilient people of such a strong faith that they say, we don't want your money. We want you to travel here. We want you to come and pray at your mosque. We want you to understand that this is your mosque. From the imams to the locals to the shopkeepers to everyone, that is exactly what they say. They say, come and travel to us, come and see us, come and pray at your masjid. Understand that this is your mosque as much as it is ours. So this is something that's the message that I've always taken away from the people that I've met there.
So how can we help the Palestinians? What do you think?
Continue to protest, continue to write to your MPs. I think within a few days, there were 40,000 letters and emails written to local MPs. The MPs are now having to respond to those emails. There's petitions, there's various petitions going on that have been signed by so many. There's always something you can do. We live in the UK and we are so lucky and we are so we're privileged. So let's use our voices, let's use everything within our capabilities, attend the protest, the peaceful protest, keep it peaceful. Let's not disrespect the plight of the Palestinians who hold strong to their faith, who are they're role models for us. Do you see them being I don't even know. Sometimes when you see the Muslim community letting the side down, and obviously the news picked it up straight away, and they mentioned about those people who were driving in some sort of convoy, and they were using very despicable language and anti-Semitic language. That was just a few people out of the 160,000 people that marched on Saturday just gone. So we reject that, we condemn that, we don't want that. We are of a beautiful faith. Let's show that faith, and we are told, we are guided on how we should be speaking up, and social activism is very important to our faith. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, never stood for oppression, always spoke out against it, and wouldn't allow it. So we need to think about that. Everything that we do, we should do to the best of our abilities, and so that God would be happy with us, and that we do not disrespect our faith and the Palestinians themselves, who have struggled for years, 73 years now. It's the 73rd year since Nakba. So if they're not swearing, if they're not using horrible slurs, then who are we to use that? We're still sitting in our comfortable homes. We're not being attacked. This is something that we should be doing: protesting, writing to MPs, creating that. Get involved in civic life. Get involved with politics. Get involved so you can actually have more of a say. These are the things that we should be doing.
Do you think a ceasefire will solve the problem?
Well, a ceasefire was announced last night, and they're still attacking Masjid al-Aqsa Mosque. And you know, I mean, I can't even say anything. The Palestinians, even the ones in Gaza, they understand that they are used as a bargaining tool. When people speak up against the Israeli security forces, what happens is this: they get punished by being attacked. And if they don't, you know, listen, if they don't conform, then again they get attacked. They use Gaza and the open air prison that is as a bargaining tool. But what do the Palestinians say? What do the people say still living in Gaza? They say, we are here for Masjid al-Aqsa. Even if our lives are taken, we will not let go.
Yeah, Shagufta, your
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Rini. You've spoken so well, and I'm sure that all our viewers will really be benefiting from what you've, shared with us today. So, people that are thinking about Palestine and Jerusalem, and I know we're asking these questions quite a lot because we've had viewers who've asked this, and it's a question of every little that they can do. I mean, I attended a protest last week, and a Palestinian female was there, and she said, if you have a mobile phone, you have a voice. Don't think that you have to be doing anything that magical, or you don't know what to do. Use your social media to protest against the brutalities that are taking place. What are your views on this, Shri?
She's 100% right. We should be talking to our friends, our family. We should be educating them. We should be talking to our work colleagues as well. I know it's a difficult thing to, there's been a lot of celebrities that have been questioned, why aren't you speaking about Palestine? And this has almost become something to judge a person's character on if they've spoken against such injustice. I think we need to continue to do this because things are changing. The narrative is changing. Before it was, oh, poor Israelis. Now it's not poor Israelis. It's like, what on earth is going on? What are they doing? How can they be so inhumane? So this is something that's changing. And because so many people are using their voices, their platforms, you can even see that the people of Jewish faith are coming out and saying, we do not agree with Israeli occupation. We do not agree with what they are doing. They are not attacking in our name. We feel ashamed. So, when we have Jewish brothers, when we have Christian brothers and sisters who are speaking up as well, how can we as Muslims not speak up?
Yeah, no, very true, Shri. And one of the messages that we kind of like that is filtering back to us is that some of our politicians, some of our political leaders, even they are just too frightened to speak up. They are actually frightened, and they're not coming forward. Some of our councillors, in the name of anti-Semitism, have lost out on their seats. I mean, this is particularly true in Peterborough, where 7 of Labour Party councillors have been suspended, and that was around the 29th of April. And it was used against the backdrop of anti-Semitism. Do you feel that anti-Semitism is being used against professional people who do have a say, that they feel that their jobs are at risk?
For sure, 100%. 100%. People need to get a dictionary. It's quite clear, and I hope the events of the past sort of 10-12 days have taught people that if the Jewish people are saying themselves that I'm anti-Israeli, how can they be anti-Semitic? So if you're anti-Israeli occupation, that does not make you anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic. So we need to constantly say that, and perhaps there's a reinvestigation needed if this is what they're using to scare people with. That it's not acceptable. Just like I mentioned, if you're against all of the terrorism and the attacks that have been taken place by white supremacy, it doesn't make you anti-Christian. Therefore, of course, being against Israelis does not make you anti-Semitic.
What would you say to people that are considering traveling to Jerusalem? When would be a safe time? Because obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic. Would it be wise to travel and show your support, or do you just need to sit back and see what unfolds?
So right now, as far as the pandemic and coronavirus is concerned, the Israelis were very quick to get vaccinated, and they have vaccinated a major part of their population. So it is actually on the green list for travel, Israelis, and you can travel there. In terms of Jerusalem right now, I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's quite safe for people to travel just yet. as soon as it is, you will see that the groups will start traveling to Masjid al-Aqsa again, and I 100% recommend that everybody does it. I can tell you the escalation this time, the amount of damage that has been done to Masjid al-Aqsa Mosque and to the Palestinian brothers and sisters, and the deaths, and not even the deaths, the murders, the murders and everything that's being done right now is because there are no foreign eyes there, because we are not traveling there, because we are not there. When people travel from America and from the UK and from other places around the world, a lot less trouble happens. Just like that video that went viral of the guy who was going to throw a stun grenade at the ambulance and the paramedics, and he stopped instantly because the video was on him and the journalist was speaking to him. So just like that, if we are there, and remember, they're not going to do anything. They have never, I have come back after, 7 times I've been within the space of, 18 months. I was traveling every couple of months. Nothing, they will not do anything to anybody who's holding a British passport. As long as, look, I'm not going to say anything about Gaza because nobody should be traveling there, because that is open. That is an open air prison. So when we travel to Masjid al-Aqsa, we just go to Masjid al-Aqsa and we visit just the holy masjids and the ziyaras there. So you always stay on track. That's the best way to stay safe. You stay in Jerusalem and you only visit the holy sites. In terms of politically, we never get involved politically. You cannot use this as an excuse to go there because this is not a safe. Everyone can see the area is quite unstable right now. In the old city, on a daily basis, they are arresting, 5 to 10 youths. They are still attacking. Just yesterday, the priest was attacked. So I know a lot of people are very eager to go, eager to travel there, and thank the Lord that now people are understanding what place in our hearts Masjid al-Aqsa should be. So inshallah, travel will resume as soon as it's safe. I think everybody should go, and take your family, take your children, take everyone you can.
Yeah, Shari, thank you so much. The United Nations, people are feeling that they really don't have enough teeth. They've spoken up a little bit, but not as hard or as firm as they should have been. And the United Nations is seen as the pillar of upholding human rights. Do you think that they should even be on the platform? Should our Muslim countries not just simply boycott United Nations and just walk out of there?
I mean, I can't speak for much. The one video that comes to mind is of that lady from Gaza who's saying, you know what, we don't need your empty words. We don't need your condemnations. We need a solution, right? So, I mean, a solution is needed. These ceasefires that clearly are broken very easily by the Israeli occupying forces, something needs to be done. I don't know who it is that needs to do this, but I can say that the word on the ground from general friends, family, everybody who's protesting, they're wondering where the Arab leaders are. They are wondering where the Muslim leaders are. They are wondering where the UN is in this. Even when even the UN buildings are not safe, when even media towers are not safe, there are definite war crimes that have occurred. So whose job is it to stop this? This is a question that we have for all of our world leaders. What are they going to do about it?
Some would argue that it's the British job to stop this because they were the ones who created this problem. So it's really all eyes on the UK because it was the UK that said that we should have the state of Israel here. So all eyes should be on the UK, and rightly so. How do you feel about?
I think whatever they started, and yes, it started with Britain. Whatever they've started, it's well out of control now, and I can't imagine that our Boris Johnson has much in him to do anything. We can only see what he's done with the COVID pandemic and how he's managed that. So I have no words. Somebody needs to, people do need to come together and do something. And yes, all eyes are on the UK right now. The UK have come out in force with protesting and stuff like that. Let's see how far this energy goes. And again, I urge everyone to stay focused and do the things that matter, like petitioning, like lobbying your MPs, like getting them involved, and hopefully at some point something will change. And I really do hope from the bottom of my heart that we see a free Palestine, and the end to all of this injustice and oppression and ethnic cleansing, genocide, all of that stuff. I hope we see the end of this.
Shirin, if I ask you, what do you think is the solution to this problem?
I mean, if it, maybe they shouldn't be there. There's a video again of a settler who's come over from New York, would you believe, to stay in a Palestinian home, and they've cordoned off a section of their home, and it belongs to the Palestinian family for centuries. It's been within their family, and he was saying to the reporter who was questioning him, "Why are you here?" And he's saying, "We're here so that they can't have their home." He was just there because they can't have their home. And this is what they are doing. They are land grabbing. They are forcefully evicting families from their own homes. And the Nakba, if people research what the Nakba is, and I know that Sheikh Jarrah had become the forefront of all of this, but every Jewish settlement right now, every Israeli settlement right now was once a Sheikh Jarrah. There are many, many cities that have been taken over. The settlers were they were bold enough to become mobs and actually start lynching Palestinian people. There's another incident of a Palestinian man who was attacked. A group of people asked him, "Are you Arab?" He thought maybe they needed help, and he said, "Yes, I am. How can I help?" And they attacked him brutally. So these are the things happening. What we need to remember is that every city that they have already taken by force, that's gone. There are more cities that they are taking, and they're getting closer and closer to Masjid Al-Aqsa. And I always go back to Masjid Al-Aqsa because I do believe that that is what is going to unite us as a community, including our Christian brothers as well. That we've you know have you seen that video as well that's gone viral when a reporter's asking Christian Palestinians, would you forgive the Israeli occupation? And they've said no. And forgiveness within the Christian faith and in the Muslim faith is a big thing, right? And they've said no. Why would we forgive? We've been through too much. They've been through too much. They're prevented from praying and doing their normal festivities around Easter in Bethlehem and Christmas as well. So we do have to remember that sometimes the Christian voice is forgotten in this, and it becomes a Muslim-Jewish issue. It becomes an anti-Semitic issue. It's not. It's not. This is simply human rights. This is like the Julie mentioned as well. It becomes a political game to cover up, what the prime minister is lacking, or to deflect from whatever's going on. They use these people, real people, just like me and you. They use these, they use it, and I think this is something that we cannot let go. Masjid Al-Aqsa, especially, and what the Muslims say as well, that Masjid Al-Aqsa, Palestine with Gaza, will never kneel to oppressors whose leader whose leader is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And that is the message that the Palestinians put out there. A nation who will only kneel to Almighty alone. So this is its solution. We can pray.
Shirin, so do you think I'm not asking about the English community or mainstream community, about the Britain or USA, the other the non-Muslim countries. Are the Arab countries, Iran, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan, helping the Palestinians?
These are conversations that we're not privy to as just your average person. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We see the condemnations by Imran Khan. We see the condemnations. We see the the words by Erdogan. We see that. Yes, fair enough. Whatever comes on the news, we see that. But we can never know what's going on behind the scenes. We can only hope that something will be done. We do, of course, we expect something to be done about this, as any human would, feeling the pain of another human. We expect something to change, something to be done. But whether it will be, whether the governments are doing something, this is not something I can comment on.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Shigufta.
Yes, I do feel that we have, as Shri has been very kind to answer so many of our questions today. Irfan Saab, is there any update as to Dr. Abir Zayad? She's the archaeological and historical expert. Will she be able to join us? Or is there too much happening in Jerusalem at the minute with the video that we saw?
I think so. She was actually at the masjid when it went down, so I've not heard back from her. So it might be not possible to get her on.
Okay, no worries. Irfan Saab, I mean, we're moving on to this whole chapter of like Kashmir and Israel conflict, which was what the topic of today's program was. Some of our other guests haven't been able to join us. Do you think there's any chance some of our other guests might be coming? Do you have any updates on that?
Not yet. We are going to close now, I think. We have not any other guest left.
Okay, no worries.
Both Kashmir and Palestine have been victims of forced occupation and atrocities for the past 72 years.
Yes, no, it's very unfortunate we have this state of play, but we thank Shri for attending and informing our viewers so wonderfully. It's been a very, very informative program, and I'd like to thank you for your participation in today's program, and thank you everybody else for watching and taking part in today, which is a Kashmir Seeks Attention, but we've not had a chance to discuss Kashmir in the kind of detail that we wanted to due to some of our guests not being able to come in, but we do thank Julie Ward, former MEP, Labour, and also Shari Mahmoud, who's a radio presenter and works for Muslim Connect. And she has been absolutely brilliant in explaining the situation as things stand with Israel and Palestine. So thank you very much for today, and over to Irfan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, viewers and listeners. Keep watching WNTV. Goodbye. Allah Hafiz.